I, Ayodele Olajuwon, do solemnly swear and affirm that the evidence I shall give before the committee and all the documents that I will present before the committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
You're welcome. So I wanted to speak to your document. Just give us a summary of how the sum of 7.7 billion naira received as COVID-19 intervention fund was utilized by the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria. So you have the floor, please.
The Honorable Chairman, honorable members of the Public Accounts Committee, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned earlier, I'm Mrs. Olubunmi Kuku, the Managing Director, Chief Executive of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. I'm particularly delighted to be here to make a presentation before the Honorable Committee and Chairman and its members on the utilization of the COVID-19 intervention funds received between the period of 2020 and 2022. Please permit me to make a brief preamble on the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. We are a service organization statutorily charged with the management of all commercial airports in Nigeria and providing services to both passengers and cargo airlines. The authority is responsible for creating conditions for the development of air transport and services connected with it in the most economic and efficient manner. The act which established FAAN empowers the authority to spend monies collected on expenses and projects approved in its yearly IGR budget. The monies derived from the various revenue sources annually are spent on personnel, overhead, and capital costs, as well as making remittance to the federal account. Specific to the COVID-19 funds, the year 2020 was particularly challenging owing to the advent of the coronavirus. On the 11th of March 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a global pandemic, which negatively impacted all human activities within the aviation sector, and we were one of the most affected. At the time, the authority was barely able to pay our staff salaries and other entitlements, while other commitments were put on hold, with only about 5% of our revenue deployed for airport maintenance. The situation didn't go down well with the various aviation unions. This resulted in them issuing threats to shut down the airports if we didn't do something drastic at the time. Based on this, we made a request through our supervising ministry, that is the Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerodrome Development, for a 6-month salary intervention in the amount of 16.8 billion for the payment of personnel costs and other related costs. From the request of 7.7 billion that was released to FAAN out of the 24 billion requested by the Ministry of Aviation, we have provided the breakdown of the utilization of funds in our submission, and I will go over it. The funds were utilized on 8 main items. The first was our furniture grant in the amount of 3.5 billion, 433,301,570 naira. There was also the PFA, which is our insurance scheme, for 771 million 137,137,000 naira and 342 naira. Staff claims of 205,255,213. Payee payments of 191,372,126 naira. Gratuity of 1,364,049,000 naira. NSITF of 144,472,000 naira. Cooperative deduction 1,400,000 491, 421, 825, and then bank charges that were related to this payment of 586,000 naira. In total, we utilized the amount of 7.7 billion based on the breakdown that we have shared with you, sirs. Thank you again to the Honorable Chairman and the committee for giving us the opportunity to present to you while we await your questions. Thank you, sirs.
So, honorable colleagues, you can ask your questions or make your observations. Yes, Honorable Wivey.
Yeah, thank you, Able Chair. I've been flipping through the document and I did listen to her as she was talking. The immediate question that came to mind is if we are not having a situation of double allocation, in the sense that most of the items listed here are budgetary and must have been covered by budgetary provisions of the respective years. So one worries whether you collect the same thing from the budget and then you collect the same thing again from COVID funds. Unless you are saying that those things were usually covered by
Can you give us an
IGR.
example of those things, sir? What things in particular are you referring to?
Pay, for instance, when you pay as you earn, as you pay salaries, automatic is deducted. The Social Insurance Trust Fund, as you pay salaries, it's automatic, it's deducted. Gratuity. So how do you now come back again in COVID funds to take those funds a second time? That's the first impression that stars anyone on the face when you look at these documents. The other thing that worries me is the staff claims. They are mainly on tours. And just looking at the character of the tours, it will appear they were manufactured for the amount. During COVID, where were people touring during COVID? How were they doing these tours? That is millions, if not billions of naira.
Auditor General, please approach the chair.
Were spent on tours at such a time. And then sitting allowances during COVID, when these are the two bulk issues in the staff claim, sitting allowances and tours. There were no meetings during
So,
COVID.
Madam, you may need to be taking note of the issues so that you respond to them together. Yes.
And it looks like there were some gifts too, Mr. Chairman. Furniture grants. Were just being, the money was just being distributed as furniture grants to everybody.
Yes, please.
Chairman, I do believe that FAAN was just looking for a way to cover these expenses. Because from the beginning to the end, everything that the staff claim furniture grant for COVID, if I saw some nose cover, mouth cover on these things, I would believe that these expenses were incurred for COVID. I know that the MD is a new person. She was just appointed. But that will not excuse this kind of recklessness. This submission is a reckless submission. And Chairman, I will actually move that we reject it in totality.
No, but let's be patient, Honorable. Let's listen to her.
Okay, Chairman, if you look at what was said, I mean, because I just don't see this flying anywhere.
Yeah, Honorable colleague, let's listen to their defense before we now reach a conclusion, sir.
Chairman,
So that I don't miss anyone. Yes, please.
like Anthony had said, but you said we should not disregard it. This is an insult. Cooperative deduction for COVID-19. You are talking of cooperative deduction. What does cooperative got to do? Cooperative is personal. It's what members of the staff are contributing. What has it got to do with this deduction? That it is being paid from COVID intervention.
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Bilios, or
Managing Director,
Yes, sir.
you brought some letters to us. Have you read these letters? I want you to go to the second page, or rather the third page. This is supposed to be a letter from, it's to the Director General, I think from the Minister. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think Deputy Director of Finance and Accounts. Go to number 3. It says, item 3. In view of the foregoing, I'm directed to request you to forward evidence of the drop in your IGRO generation from January 2020 to date due to COVID-19 pandemic, along with salary payment documents for the same period to the ministry within 24 hours of receipt of this letter. Did you submit that request? Do we have it here? Is it part of what we have here?
Madam, always sit down. You don't need to stand up.
Yes, sit down.
And, thank God, but you are not on oath. So you are not qualified to speak. You are not on oath. Did you take an oath? Oh, she took the oath? Oh, I'm sorry, please. Apologies.
Okay.
So you can speak. Just make sure that you also note this issue. If you
we will let you speak to the document since you said it's here. Because why I brought that up is when the MD was doing her submission, she did mention that FAAN has the authority to spend from what you generate as IGRO, correct? Okay, and when you made this request, you made this request based on the fact that your IGRO dropped. Okay, so we are going to let you speak to that. Again, like my colleague said, when you are coming to the National Assembly, you don't bring a document that looks like something that was just typed on the roadside without any proof of what you have just done. I'm sure there might have been some vouchers or some other things. But when you talk about furniture allowance, if I may ask, can you please expatiate on that? What does furniture allowance mean? And sitting allowance. And mind you, this is during COVID. And when you requested for this money, did you specify that every single thing you highlighted here was what you wanted to do with the money that was given to you? Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I yield back
Thank
to
you.
the
Honorable colleagues, I think we should allow her to answer those ones first.
And members, I will attempt to answer some of the questions, and I will defer to my colleagues for others, given the history within the system. I think the first question was around a potential double payment, given the fact that salaries should have been accounted for in our appropriation. I think the first is to say that our recurrent and overhead expenditure are actually from revenues generated by the Federal Airports Authority through our internally generated revenue. We do not receive appropriation for overheads and recurrent expenditure from the federal government of Nigeria. In addition to that, you will take note of the services.
In other words, the appropriation does not take care of the payment of your salaries.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir?
Salaries and allowances.
Yes, they're not covered from, and.
Go ahead, madam.
In addition to that, sir, I had initially started with the preamble of the services that we provide as the Federal Airports Authority to provide a bit of context into how we generate revenue for the agency. You would recall that during COVID, we did have a reduction in terms of the flights that were coming into Nigeria. At some point, we also had a complete stop of the revenue. The revenue generated by our airports are from two sources. We refer to them as aeronautical and non-aeronautical revenue. Our aeronautical revenue, which is the biggest chunk, comes from services or comes from recovery of revenue for services provided to the airlines. They would include things like landing charges, parking charges, passenger service charges, all of which we could not generate during that time. We also have non-aeronautical revenue, which comes from things like service charges, electricity, fueling, cost of either any sorts of services that we have provided, and we're looking to recover. I want to start by saying that we're really not a revenue generating agency, rather we're a service recovery agency. The fact that we were unable to provide services at that point in time meant that we had a reduction, a major reduction, and we were unable to pay salaries at that time. I think the second question, before I answer the comment around touring allowance, I want to answer question number 3 and number 4 as to whether we made a request to cover these sort of expenditure. Sir, in the letter that we wrote to the Federal Ministry of Aviation, which you have a copy of, we did indeed state that we were requesting for these for the purposes of salaries and to defray any outstanding related allowances which accumulated due to the impact of the pandemic. In addition, the letter written from the Federal Ministry on the 20th to us also stated that we were going to be covering salaries and related expenses based on the drop in our IGR. The line items which I read to you...
Which letter are you making reference to? Which letter indicated salary and related expenses? On what page is that letter?
So on the letter from November 25th, paragraph 2.
That's the one from
Okay.
the Federal Ministry of Aviation?
Yes, to the agency.
The one from the aviation
Correct.
talks about for the...
Written back to us was very specific.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
just be patient.
No problem.
Specific as to what?
It says that the request in paragraph 2, line 4, speaks to the justification because the initial request, sir, was for 24 billion for the payment of outstanding salaries of the agencies.
Hello, ma.
Yes, sir.
Did you read that well?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding what?
Salaries.
Yeah, but you said salaries and other related expenses. That's what that was the expression you used that made me ask you whether I missed out something from that letter.
Yes, I would refer to the letter afterwards, sir. So
Okay.
on November 29th, 2021.
November
29th, 2021.
Yes.
Paragraph 2. We wrote back to the ministry highlighting that the funds were requested to be used for defraying outstanding staff-related allowances, which accumulated due to the impact of the pandemic. Sir.
Just a moment, please. Let's take Go ahead, madam. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, sir, in addition, we had also
this
written...
letter you are referring to
Yes.
is a letter that is talking about utilization, was it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That is post-expenditure.
That's absolutely correct.
All right.
We also have a letter on the 24th of March 2021, which was pre-expenditure, where we write again, if I may, in paragraph 2, we stated that it was pertinent to mention that the effect of the pandemic on the fortunes of the authority in the last year had been far-reaching, as at the end of the year 2020, the authority had experienced about 50% loss in our revenue as compared to pre-COVID period, and that the situation had led to untold financial stress, leading to the suspension of a number of crucial commitments. While we were taking steps to return to our normal lives, news of the variant second wave, leading to the imposition of new levels of restriction.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
We can read that. So
Okay,
what
sir.
point are you bringing out from it?
So we're saying, sir, that we asked for the money to be used to defray part of our outstanding salaries.
Okay, so So now, respond to the observation by one of my colleagues now that said that all we see here is furniture grant, travel, to payment for ANAN, payment for sitting allowance, and so on. So respond to that.
Yes, sir.
Staff has the right to do cooperative, and cooperative is part of the gross salary. At that time, we were able to pay only net. We couldn't pay all the deductions from the salary we were paying the staff, and those deductions accumulated, and that is the cooperative deductions. The furniture grant supposed to go with the staff salary. We had to remove it because we couldn't pay. We were just managing for them to have something to take home.
So you paid the salaries.
We paid net. We couldn't pay gross.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
These ones that we paid are part of salaries. If I'm earning, let me explain, sir. If I'm earning 100,000, I decide to do cooperative of 40,000.
Honorable, let's say.
Mr. Chairman, sir. Chairman, sir. You see, why we stay so long in hearings like this is when our guests haven't seen what our respected colleagues have pointed out. Your MD has said you wrote a letter for salaries. There is nothing in any of the things that you put there. Most of us has also been, at a time, civil servants before now. When these things are not there, trying to make change things, the narrative is what will make us stay long. It's not there, it's not there. We'll move to the next level, and you won't stay too long here. When we've not done things that is right, let us agree. Trying to change it that to say we wrote letter for salaries and we are now paying furniture grants differs. Grants, that nomenclature, grant, is not. You understand what I'm trying to say, man?
I understand what you are saying. Maybe we should have taken it as furniture allowance. Maybe that is where because it's supposed to be part of salary. Like NCA, they were able to pay as part of salary.
Mommy, you are still changing it. Furniture allowance does not come monthly.
In other
organization. But this is grant. This is furniture dash. You understand? No, it's grant. I'm saying English. You have a dictionary on your phone, madam. Please check what grant means. So don't let us stay too long on this. You've heard in it, let us move. Just agree with us. It's not a crucifixion that we have here. It's just a hearing.
And if they had
to make things easy for
documents,
you, do you have a breakdown of your salaries?
Yeah, and supporting
what
documents.
makes up your salary?
We have the breakdown of salaries, and as a matter of policy, sir, our condition of service allow us to pay staff furniture grant every 3 years.
Tell us now, this is what it is. Then it's going to make things so difficult. So if you have that breakdown, maybe on your breakdown, we will see sitting allowance, we will see touring, we will see furniture grant, we will see, then there will be no need to be arguing over all this. So can you present us with that breakdown?
Yeah. In addition, Madam Finance, are you affirming that payment of touring allowance to attend award and recognition, official trip to Uyo to attend this, official trip to Abuja, to Ilorin, trip to Calabar, refund for repairs of project vehicle are all part of your monthly salaries? Is that your claim?
They are staff claims. They are not salary. When we got this money, all this analysis we did it even to the presidency and to the Ministry of Aviation.
Was that before or after?
That was after.
Okay, but the request you made is different from the report you made after you got disbursement.
The request we made was on salary and other related staff matters.
Other related
staff matters.
On what page? What paragraph? Other staff-related allowances.
Yes, other related staff matters.
Outstanding staff-related allowances, which accumulate due to the impact of the pandemic on the finances of the authority.
Yes.
That's what you are talking about?
Yes, sir.
So these other related staff allowances include the furniture grant, the touring,
Yes.
the sitting allowance,
Yes.
and all that.
Yes, sir.
During COVID.
That
Was that, hold on, ma'am, hold on.
Just let Honorable Osao finish.
Yes, so because why we are asking all this, they are all leading questions, and you're on oath. There might be some other documents that will say something else, and that will put you in a difficult position. So that's why we are asking. So whatever you're answering now, you should be able to stand by it. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
And yeah, I just want to also just ask. Yeah, you asked your question, Honorable Tijani Ismail. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor. DFA. No, I was the DFA. You know very well.
Yes.
The MD, she's new.
Talking about the DFA or the GM Finance?
GM Finance, sorry.
Okay.
You know very well. You generate IGR. From your IGR, you service your recurrent expenditure and others. In the situation whereby you couldn't meet up during COVID, those services you render is not there anymore. So you have to request for intervention from the Ministry of Aviation and Presidency, as you said. Is there no any need for you to come to the National Assembly for Environment? Because the mandate that constitutes your agency said you can fund yourself by paying your salary. In a situation whereby you go outside the inflow you used to have from the service you render, is there no any need for you to tender it to the committee that oversee you before you move on?
Okay, you can note that. And I also want to ask whether all these payments included in your document were paid by cash or by bank transfer. Were these payments, all the payments here, paid by cash or by bank transfer to the individual account of the payee?
We don't pay cash in FAAN. They are done by bank transfer.
And all were paid to the individual bank account of the payee?
Like cooperative now, we have several cooperative societies within Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and they were paid to
like
them.
the individual staff members
Then
who got payment here, their touring allowance was paid to the individual persons,
Yes, sir.
not to one person on behalf of 10 or 15
No.
or 20 persons.
No, we don't do that.
So if those members of staff were invited here, they will confirm
They will.
having received all those money
They-
directly in their various accounts.
They will. The vouchers are there where their names are there.